I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd have to choose between buying groceries and paying for my daughter's physical therapy. But here I am, standing in front of my bathroom mirror at 5:30 a.m., trying to cover the dark circles under my eyes with dollar store concealer before my shift at Mercy General Hospital begins. 3 years ago, I was Dr. Sarah Chen, PharmD, with a corner office and a salary that let me buy organic everything. I had a husband who kissed me goodbye every morning, a beautiful house in the suburbs, and a future that looked as bright as the diamond on my finger. Then Emma was born with cerebral palsy, and 6 months later, Michael was gone. Not dead, just gone. One day he was there. The next day there was a note on the kitchen counter saying he couldn't handle this life and deserved better. The medical bills came like vultures. Insurance covered the basics, but Emma needed so much more. Specialized equipment, therapy sessions, adaptive devices that cost more than most people's cars. I sold the house, cashed out my retirement, and took whatever jobs I could find that offered health insurance. Medical assistant by day, waitress by night, and sometimes weekend catering gigs when Emma stayed with Mrs. Rodriguez next door. But you know what? Emma never once complained. At 6 years old, she navigates this world with more grace than most adults. She zooms around in her bright purple wheelchair like it's a race car, and her laugh could light up the darkest room. When other kids stare, she waves and says, "Hi, I'm Emma, and these are my super fast wheels." What those people at the hospital don't know, what nobody knows, is that I've been volunteering at the Children's Disability Advocacy Center every Sunday for 2 years. I've become the person other families call when they need help navigating the system, when they need someone who understands. Last month, I helped secure funding for 12 families to get equipment their kids desperately needed. The center's director keeps asking me to apply for the program coordinator position, but I've been too scared to hope for something that good. Little did I know that everything was about to change at a wedding I almost didn't attend. "Sarah, you have to come to my wedding." David's hands were gentle as he turned my face toward his. We were sitting in my tiny kitchen, Emma coloring at the table between us, her tongue poking out in concentration. "You and Emma are my family now. I want everyone to see that." David Martinez had walked into Rosie's diner 8 months ago and somehow saw past my exhausted exterior to whatever was left of the woman I used to be. He was patient when I flinched at sudden movements, understanding when I had to cancel dates because Emma was sick, and gentle when I finally told him about Michael leaving. "David, your family is—" I paused, searching for the right words. "They're traditional, and Emma and I, we're not exactly the picture-perfect family they probably imagined for you." "Mommy, am I going to be the flower girl?" Emma looked up from her coloring book, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Can I wear my pretty dress? The pink one with the sparkles?" My heart clenched. She'd been talking about being a flower girl ever since David proposed. In her 6-year-old mind, weddings were fairy tales, and she was going to be a princess. "Of course you are, princessa," David said, reaching over to ruffle her hair. "You're going to be the most beautiful flower girl anyone's ever seen." But I'd heard the whispers at family dinners. His mother Maria's tight smiles when she looked at Emma. His Aunt Rosa's not-so-subtle comments about taking on someone else's problems. The way conversations stopped when I entered a room. I don't want Emma to get hurt," I whispered after she'd gone to watch TV. "Sarah, look at me." David's brown eyes were serious. "I love you. I love Emma. Anyone who has a problem with either of you isn't really family to me. We're doing this together, all 3 of us." So I said yes, and I spent the next month's grocery money on a dress for Emma and tried to convince myself that everything would be fine. I should have listened to my instincts. The morning of the wedding, I spent 2 hours getting Emma ready. Her hair was perfect, soft curls pinned back with tiny flowers. Her dress was a confection of pink tulle and sparkles that made her look like the princess she believed herself to be. She practiced throwing rose petals from her wheelchair, giggling every time. "Mommy, do I look pretty?" she asked, admiring herself in the mirror. "You look absolutely perfect, baby." And she did. She looked like pure joy wrapped in pink silk. The church was beautiful, all white roses and golden light streaming through stained glass windows. But the moment we arrived, I felt the familiar weight of judgment settling on my shoulders. "Oh," Maria's face fell slightly when she saw us. "Sarah, mija, you look nice." Her eyes swept over my off-the-rack dress and discount shoes. "And Emma, such a sweet little thing." The photographer appeared at my elbow. "Hi, I'm Jake, the photographer. So, about the processional." He glanced nervously at Emma's wheelchair. "I'm thinking maybe we could work around the mobility situation. Perhaps she could go down a side aisle." "She's the flower girl," I said firmly. "She goes down the main aisle." "Right, of course. It's just that the chair might be distracting in the photos. Very visible, you know?" Before I could respond, David's cousin Lisa appeared. "Sarah, you made it!" Her smile was bright, but her eyes were calculating. "And look at little Emma. So brave of you to include her in the ceremony." Brave. As if loving my daughter and wanting her to participate in life was some kind of heroic act. "Where should we sit?" I asked, looking around at the filling pews. "Oh, well, there's been a small change. The front rows are reserved for immediate family, and since there might be some accessibility issues with the wheelchair, we've saved you seats in the back. Perfect view, and Emma won't feel overwhelmed by all the people." My chest tightened. David specifically said, "I know, sweetie, but this will be better for everyone. Trust me." Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Mommy, why is everyone staring at me? Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong." But even as I said it, I could feel the eyes on us, the whispers that followed in our wake. An elderly woman leaned toward her companion. "Such a shame, that poor child. And the mother looks so young, probably one of those women who has babies to trap men." My face burned, but Emma had heard too. Her bright smile faltered, and she looked down at her hands. We were still standing in the center aisle when everything fell apart. Blow one, the verbal attack. "Sarah, there you are!" Rosa's voice carried across the church as she approached with two other women I didn't recognize. "Ladies, this is the bride David is so infatuated with." Her tone made "infatuated" sound like a disease. "Oh, how interesting," one of the women said, her eyes taking in every detail of my appearance. "And this must be the little girl we've heard about." "Yes, Emma has some challenges," Rosa continued, as if Emma weren't sitting right there. "Cerebral palsy, I think. Such a burden for a young mother. And with no father around." She shook her head in mock sympathy. "Well, I suppose David has always been drawn to lost causes." My hands clenched at my sides. "Emma isn't a burden. She's a blessing." "Of course, dear. I'm sure you tell yourself that." Rosa's smile was sharp as a knife. "But let's be honest, what kind of future can you really give her? Working 2 jobs, living in that tiny apartment? David deserves a wife who can contribute to the family, not one who comes with complications." Emma's small voice cut through the conversation. "Mama, what's a burden?" Blow 2, the public shaming. Before I could answer Emma, the wedding coordinator appeared with a clipboard and a nervous expression. "Ms. Chen, I'm so sorry, but we need to make a small adjustment." She glanced around at the growing crowd of onlookers. "It's about Emma's role in the ceremony. The aisle is quite narrow, and we're concerned about the wheelchair disrupting the flow. We've arranged for a special viewing area in the back where she'll have a perfect view." "No." The word came out harder than I intended. "David asked Emma to be his flower girl. She's been practicing for weeks." "I understand, but we have to think about the other guests, the photographs, the videography. The wheelchair will be very prominent in all the shots. And well, she gestured helplessly. This is David's special day. We don't want anything to overshadow that. The words hit me like physical blows. Anything to overshadow that. My daughter, my beautiful, brave, perfect daughter, was being treated like an obstacle to be managed. Mommy? Emma's voice was small and confused. Am I not going to throw the flowers? Blow 3. The ultimate insult. That's when Maria's nephew Marco, a 19-year-old who clearly thought he was God's gift to the world, decided to share his opinion with anyone within earshot. This is ridiculous, he announced loudly. Uncle David is ruining his own wedding for some sympathy case. Look at them. She looks like she shops at thrift stores. And that kid? He gestured dismissively at Emma. This isn't a charity event. It's supposed to be a celebration. But now every picture, every memory is going to have a wheelchair in it. How is that fair to my uncle? The church had gone eerily quiet. Every eye was on us. Some sympathetic, most just curious about the drama unfolding. Emma's face crumpled as the words sank in. Mommy, she whispered, tears starting to fall. I want to go home. I don't want to be in the pictures anymore. That's when something inside me broke and rebuilt itself stronger. Standing there in that church, surrounded by people who saw my daughter as an inconvenience and me as a charity case, I felt that familiar urge to disappear, to gather Emma up and leave quietly, to not make a scene, to protect her from any more hurt. But then I looked down at my daughter's face. This little girl who faced every day with courage I could only dream of, who had never once asked, why me? When she struggled with things other kids took for granted, who believed the world was good and people were kind. She was learning that sometimes the world was cruel. Mama, are we leaving? She asked quietly, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Do you want to leave, baby? She looked toward the altar where David was standing with his groomsmen, probably unaware of what was happening in the back of the church. I want to throw the flowers for Daddy David, but maybe I really am ruining his wedding. Emma Claire Chen, I said, kneeling down so we were eye to eye. You listen to me. You are not ruining anything. You are not a burden. You are not something to be hidden away. You are smart and funny and brave, and any wedding would be lucky to have you. Then why don't they want me? It was a question that cut straight to my heart. Because the truth was, I'd been asking myself the same thing my whole life since Michael left. Why doesn't anyone want us? What's wrong with us? But looking at Emma, really looking at her, I saw what David saw, what I should have seen all along. She wasn't broken. She wasn't less than. She was perfect exactly as she was. You know what, Em? Some people are so worried about things looking perfect that they forget about things being perfect. And you, my sweet girl, are perfect. I stood up and faced the crowd that was still watching our drama unfold. We're staying, I announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. Emma is going to be the flower girl, just like David wanted, and if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me. But before I could take another step, something happened that changed everything. The church doors opened with a bang that echoed through the sanctuary. Everyone turned to see a man in full military dress uniform walking down the aisle. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and moved with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to command. "Sorry I'm late," he called out, his voice carrying easily through the church. "Flight from Germany was delayed." David's face lit up. "James, you made it!" As the man, James, walked closer, I noticed he had a slight limp. Nothing dramatic, just a barely perceptible hesitation in his left leg. He was scanning the crowd, and when his eyes landed on our little tableau in the back, he stopped. "What's going on back here?" he asked, his voice suddenly sharp with authority. Marco, emboldened by having an audience, repeated his complaints. "We're just trying to figure out the logistics of accommodating special circumstances without ruining the ceremony." James looked from Marco to Emma, who was still wiping tears from her cheeks, to me standing protectively beside her wheelchair. Something in his expression shifted, hardened. "Special circumstances?" he repeated slowly. "The wheelchair," Rosa explained, as if James couldn't see perfectly well what she meant. "It's going to be very prominent in all the photos, and frankly, it's not the image we want for David's wedding. We're not trying to be mean, but—" "Stop." The single word cut through her explanation like a blade. James walked directly to where we stood, and then he did something that made the entire church gasp. He knelt down. In his pristine dress uniform, with his chest full of medals and ribbons, this imposing military officer knelt down in front of my daughter's wheelchair until he was at her eye level. "Hello there," he said gently. "What's your name?" "Emma," she whispered, still sniffling. "Well, Emma, I'm Captain James Rodriguez, and I'm David's big brother. I understand you're supposed to be our flower girl today." She nodded uncertainly. "You know what, Emma? I think these people are confused about something very important." His voice was still gentle, but it carried clearly through the silent church. "They seem to think that courage comes in only one form, that strength looks only one way." He stood up slowly, and as he did, he reached down and deliberately rolled up the left leg of his dress pants. The church erupted in gasps and whispers as everyone saw the metal and carbon fiber where flesh and bone should have been. "I lost my leg to an IED in Afghanistan," James announced, his voice now carrying the authority of someone used to addressing troops. "I wear a prosthetic every day. I limp. I struggle with stairs. Some days I hurt so much I can barely get out of bed." The silence in the church was deafening. "But you know what I learned over there? Courage isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up anyway. It's about fighting battles every single day that other people can't even see. It's about finding joy and purpose despite the challenges you face." He turned back to Emma. "And this little lady, she shows more courage every single day than most people do in their entire lives." Then he looked directly at Marco, his eyes cold as winter steel. "So when I hear someone say that a child's medical equipment is going to ruin photos, or that including everyone is somehow a problem, what I hear is someone who has never fought for anything real in their entire life." The church was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. "Emma," James said, extending his hand to her, "would you do me the honor of letting me escort you down this aisle? My leg doesn't work so well anymore, and I think I could use a brave partner to help me make it to the front." What happened next was something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Emma looked up at this decorated war hero who was asking for her help, and her face transformed. The tears stopped, her back straightened, and she smiled. That brilliant sunshine smile that had gotten us through every dark day of the past 3 years. "I can help you," she said solemnly. "My wheels are really good at going straight." The entire congregation rose to their feet as James and Emma made their way down the aisle together. The wounded warrior and the little girl in the bright purple wheelchair, both of them carrying flowers, both of them radiating a dignity that shamed everyone who had tried to diminish them. David was crying when they reached the altar. He immediately knelt down beside Emma's chair. "I'm so sorry, Princessa. I didn't know what they were saying to you." "It's okay, Daddy David," Emma said, already forgiving him. "Captain James says I'm brave like a soldier." But James wasn't done. He turned to face the congregation, still in his role as best man, and said, "Before we continue with this ceremony, I think we need to address something important. My brother David didn't just fall in love with Sarah today. He fell in love with an extraordinary woman who has raised an extraordinary daughter. Sarah works 2 jobs to provide for Emma, volunteers at the Children's Hospital every weekend, and somehow still finds the energy to make Emma feel like the most loved child in the world." The congregation was listening intently now, shame beginning to color some faces. "And Emma? Emma is about to become part of our family, which means anyone who has a problem with her has a problem with me. Anyone who thinks she's not good enough for us has it backwards. We're the ones who need to prove we're good enough for her. Rosa was crying now, and Marco was staring at his shoes. Maria approached us slowly, her eyes full of remorse. "Mija," she said to me, her voice thick with tears. "Perdóname. Forgive me, I was wrong. Emma, mi amor, would you teach your abuela how to say I love you in sign language?" Emma's face lit up again. "I know a little bit. Daddy David taught me." She showed Maria the signs, patient and kind despite everything that had been said. The photographer appeared at my elbow again, but this time his demeanor was completely different. "Ma'am, I'd like to feature Emma prominently in all the wedding photos, if that's okay with you. I think she's the most photogenic member of the wedding party." As the ceremony continued, something magical happened. Instead of being hidden or minimized, Emma became the star of the show. When she threw her rose petals, the congregation burst into applause. When James helped her position her wheelchair just right for photos, people cheered. But the most beautiful moment came during the reception when James gave his best man speech. "My brother David has always had good judgment," he said, raising his glass. "But today he showed me that he doesn't just have good judgment, he has perfect judgment." Sarah and Emma, welcome to the Rodriguez family. We are better because you're here. The entire reception erupted in applause, and Emma beamed like the princess she'd always known herself to be. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my new office at the Children's Disability Advocacy Center, looking at the business cards that read, Sarah Chen, Program Director. The job came with a salary that means Emma and I can finally move out of our tiny apartment and into a real home, one with ramps and wide doorways, and a yard where Emma can race her wheelchair to her heart's content. But more than that, I wake up every morning knowing that I'm helping other families navigate the same challenges we've faced. Last week, I helped a father get the insurance company to approve his son's communication device. Yesterday, I connected a single mother with resources for adaptive equipment. Tomorrow, I'm speaking at a conference about inclusive education. Emma is thriving too. She's in a new school with better accessibility and teachers who see her potential instead of her limitations. She's made friends who don't care about her wheelchair. In fact, they think it's pretty cool. Last week, she told me she wants to be a doctor when she grows up, so I can help other kids like me. David and I had a small ceremony of our own 6 weeks ago. Just the 3 of us, James, and a few close friends. Emma was our only wedding party member, rolling down the aisle in a wheelchair, decorated with white roses and ribbons, glowing with happiness. The pictures from David's original wedding went viral on social media after Jake, the photographer, posted them with a caption about real beauty and true courage. The image of James kneeling beside Emma's wheelchair has been shared thousands of times, with comments from people sharing their own stories of overcoming obstacles and finding strength in unexpected places. But the best part isn't the job or the house or even the viral fame. The best part is watching Emma understand that she is exactly who she's supposed to be, that her wheelchair isn't something to hide or apologize for. It's part of what makes her extraordinary. Maria has become an unexpected ally and devoted grandmother to Emma. She's learning sign language and has started volunteering at the center with me. Rosa sent a long letter of apology and a donation to the Children's Hospital in Emma's name. Even Marco reached out to apologize, and he's now studying to become a physical therapist. As for James, he visits every few weeks and has become Emma's hero. They have long conversations about courage and resilience, and he's teaching her that strength comes in many forms. Last month, he brought a group of his veteran friends to the center to talk to kids about overcoming challenges, and Emma was his co-presenter. Sometimes I think about Michael and wonder if he knows what he missed. If he realizes that what he saw as a burden was actually the greatest gift he could have walked away from. But mostly, I don't think about him at all. Emma and I are too busy living our beautiful, imperfect, absolutely perfect life. The truth is, that day at the wedding taught me something I should have known all along. Emma was never the one who needed to prove she belonged. The world needed to prove it was worthy of her. And now? Now the world is stepping up, one person at a time, one family at a time, one child at a time. Because once you see real courage, the kind that shows up every day with a smile and never gives up, you can never unsee it. Emma rolls into my office now, home from school and ready to tell me about her day. Her eyes are bright with excitement, and she's got that look she gets when she's planning something. Mama, guess what? Mrs. Patterson says I can give a presentation to the whole school about accessibility, and Captain James said he'll come help me if I want. That sounds wonderful, baby. What are you going to tell them? She grins that $1,000,000 smile. I'm going to tell them that different isn't wrong. Different is just different. And sometimes different is exactly what the world needs. Sometimes the most profound truths come from the mouths of 6-year-olds in purple wheelchairs. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to be the mother of the child who teaches the world about real beauty, real strength, and real love. Emma was never broken. The world was just waiting for her to show up and fix it.